I'm going to give it a few more seconds to let people trickle in before we get started.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Marcella Ploski, and I am ERP-One Sales Coordinator and your host for today's session. Before we dive in, let me give you a quick introduction to ERP-One and who we are. ERP-One is a trusted ERP solutions provider specializing in JD Edwards. Our services include consulting across technical, application, development, and project management areas. We also offer long-term support through staff augmentation and managed services. With over 20 years of experience, our team works as an extension of our clients' teams, delivering a client-centric approach that helps organizations maximize the value of their ERP investment. Today's presentation, Strategies and Integration for JDE's Sustainability Framework, will be led by Nick Wilson, ERP-One's Innovation and Technology Lead. Nick has been with ERP-One for 15 years and brings extensive expertise in project management, digital transformation, architecture design and review, as well as upgrade planning and execution. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to drop them in the comment box. We will address them during the Q&A at the end. And don't worry about missing anything. This is being recorded and we'll share the recording with you afterwards. And before we get into it, we do have a quick poll that should pop up on your screen here. So, which departments or roles in your organization are primarily involved in driving sustainability initiatives? And I'll just give everybody a few seconds to answer. Okay, hopefully that was enough time for everybody to submit if they wish to do so. So with that, I will hand it over to Nick to get us started. Thank you for joining and enjoy the session.
Excellent. Thank you, Marcella, and thank you everyone for joining today. As Marcella mentioned, our topic today will be around the sustainability framework, a new, not quite module per se, but a new set of features within E1 that help you track some of your sustainability and ESG initiatives. Just as a disclaimer up front, I am not a ESG guru or pro by any means, although I will say that I've learned a lot, even uncovering and working with this module. The focus of today's meeting and my role for the most part is to help connect some of these new features and technologies that Oracle is delivering and providing with customers and showing them sort of some of the high level overview and benefits, diving into the details with some of the appropriate engineers when needed. So with that, our agenda for today is as follows here. Really looking at the sustainability framework and what businesses are looking for, as well as then we'll dive into the Oracle solution. I'll review in a few slides some of the architecture, try to visualize what the sustainability framework is and what modules it connects into. And then we'll look at a very quick demo where I'll show entering a sustainability record with some demo data and then a approval process. So with that, let's get into it. So again, whoops, apologize. Here we are. So in terms of environmental responsibility or reasons to adopt this, some companies are looking at gaining obviously a competitive edge or advantage in things like carbon capture or carbon emissions capture. If you're in Canada, you'll know what that is. But really trying to understand what your carbon emissions outputs are and keeping track of them within a centralized ERP-like repository. And again, a lot of data collection and regulations potentially or standards to conform to. And so with that and those strategies, JD Edwards has designed a tool really to address those initiatives or those challenges, really incorporating, storing the carbon capture inside of JD Edwards and then providing a way to capture it through transactional data, as well as a way to integrate both inbound into the system and outbound to external systems. And really, that's what these four benefits are. The first two I just highlighted there regarding managing the data inside of the ERP. With that, you do get some enhanced reporting. That as well is through an integration, which we'll see shortly. And this is a cost-effective, most importantly, probably, is a cost-effective compliance solution. Something that if you're running JD Edwards already and you need to capture or are hearing some of these buzzwords or terms, or we need to start capturing these emissions, JD Edwards has a solution for some things like that. And so really we'll, sort of get into what that Oracle solution is. And again, starting with some of these challenges, which are addressed with the solution, but they include, a lot of companies that are tracking some of these emissions and carbon output have different suppliers that are providing fuel and fuel data both in the form of delivered or purchased energy as well as mobile combustion stationary. Um, all of those processes, just those few there, have different components to them, and they all have different standards and different formats. And really, the common denominator is that they need to be boiled down into some form of manual consolidation, really taking extra time, prone to human error, and ultimately less accurate overall. And so that's an issue for most organizations. And so that collection, right, that manual consolidation really comes down to collection. And that is essentially what we're focusing in on now. So what data are we collecting, both inside of JD Edwards and maybe external, but we want to integrate it in. Right now, it looks like environmental data in the form of fuel consumption, different energy usage, and distance traveled, specifically when burning diesel or other mobile combustion type of things. And so we are going to or where to collect them. So we know some of the data that we want, and the where to collect comes in the form of different activity sources via AP vouchers or procurement vouchers, sorry, when purchasing or paying for a lot of this fuel and energy. These items and some of these metrics needed are right on the invoice. And so this is a great place to collect some of this data. We can also collect this data through different asset meters and by issuing or moving inventory around as well. All of that is integrated into a reporting and analytics solution. So the meeting title of this webinar includes integration, and the reason we emphasize that was that the arrow here is sort of the demarcation of what is happening on the inside of JD Edwards versus what's happening external, needing an integration. So for the JDE sustainability solution, if we want to do some of the carbon calculations, we need to send that data external to JD Edwards to be processed. What JD Edwards has done is provided a place to store a lot of the raw data, as well as, the ERP being a common spot for some of the activity sources. It makes sense for the data to be in that zone. But Oracle or JD Edwards E1 is leveraging Oracle EPM. That's the Enterprise Performance module and Analytics Cloud. Both of these are cloud services that you can leverage and are certified to work with the solution. So keeping that in mind, when we are building or looking at the framework inside of JD Edwards, we have, again, a more of a pictorial view of what it looks like. So the sustainability foundation itself can be thought of like a module where we have different sets of UDCs and tables storing some master data, and then we have a one transactional data, which is our sustainability record as well. And so this master data or configuration comes in the form of these components inside of here. So activity types, emissions types, unit of measures, determinants. We'll dive into those a little bit in the next slides, but that is all part of the foundation or the framework. They refer to the what reference earlier. What data are we collecting? From there, we move into the applications themselves. So with this release, we have uplifts or feature enhancements to accounts payable and procurement that have new row exits and tie-ins through business functions and other object updates. So that means ESUs. But these modules, these objects are going to utilize the foundation. And when set up, will write records directly to the sustainability transaction table. And so that is where that environmental data is captured, or the sustainability activity ledger, or that transactional data for these sustainability initiatives are all stored within here. That in terms of a JD Edwards and following suit with some of the digital transformation and orchestration components, utilizing the modules themselves to insert data is possible. So accounts payable, procurement, standard vouchers, or the voucher match process. But you can also do manual entry. And with that manual entry, using, as I started with, the digital transformation and orchestrations, you can leverage or create an inbound process for creating these sustainability records if you've got them stored elsewhere or data needs to be captured inbound. That's true with the third-party system and the type of integrations that we were previously talking about. And again, visualized here is how the calculation integration would look like on this chart, where again, the data captured inside of JD Edwards would be passed into the cloud where it would be processed, and then emissions data would then be passed back into JD Edwards, that where it would be stored. So none of your transactional data is stored in the cloud. It's only used for calculations. That definitely comes with an asterisk in terms of how you have your EPM solution set up, certainly. Similarly, on the reporting side, there are no JD Edwards reports right now that will directly give you a lot of this information, but the data is all stored within there, and there are pre-built cloud solutions for the analytics cloud that you can leverage. Okay, so I won't dive too deep into the data and the data items themselves, but this is a sort of an overview of the type of data that's stored in the system within the framework itself. So the determinants, that's the fuel type that we talked about, or the type as well, sorry, the determinants and then the type, the measurement that we include, as well as whether it's scope one, scope two, and the emissions type. All of that gets funneled into the activity source, which is what you tag or utilize on the JDE module applications. So right now, the two that are uplifted are the voucher, standard voucher entry, and the voucher match programs. But the Oracle roadmap does have assets, inventory, and manufacturing happening, as well as I will say in terms of roadmap items. Right now, what is included in the standard voucher and voucher match really only accommodates scope one type of emissions. So again, if that makes sense to you and you know the type of emissions you're looking for, you can keep that in mind. But Oracle does have all scope one, two, and three on their roadmap before, I believe, the end of the year to have some components supported. If that is something that is of interest to you, definitely let us know. And if you are interested in scope two or scope three type of initiatives. And then drilling down even further, the table below is what the activity records look like. So in that activity ledger table, we have one record per sustainability sort of action or capture. So if it's an invoice, it's for one amount. In the first row, we'll see it's for 100 gallons of diesel. And so that would be captured and the emissions would be captured being used in the stationary generator here, stationary combustion. Okay, so you might also be asking yourself, how are we providing, how does Oracle provide auditing or approvals and governance, as well as some tracking of these records? As we started with, there's a lot of eyes and financial initiatives tied to some of these. And so having this approval workflow is important to be embedded into the system. And so from the E1 perspective, the sustainability framework utilizes the existing workflow engine. Whenever a transaction gets created, it is tagged as either in progress or approved. Once it is entered, it goes through the engine and as approved equals to no, and gets passed on to approver one, however that is set up, where you can provide a threshold. So you can say approver one only has a limits to approve up to 100 gallons of gas. Otherwise, it needs to go to the next person. You can choose what that threshold is in different data items as well. If that threshold is breached, you can divert it to approval two. Regardless, once approved in the sustainability activity ledger table, that record is updated to yes, and you now have a approved and audit sort of trail for that record, which then cannot be, I think, unapproved or changed if you're using the front end app as well. So what I will do is stop the presentation at the moment, and I will share my screen and we can do a quick demo and then pause for some questions. So, right, so on my screen is the beginnings of my live demo. So I will go through in the next 5 minutes. I will highlight some overview of the sustainability framework when you get it installed so that you have an idea of what it looks like. First and foremost, it comes with a really handy E1 page or a composed page here called the Sustainability Framework, and it includes the setup items that I referred to before, so the determinants types, activity types, and the different components are highlighted under each of here. I won't go through them now, but you saw some of the options on the PowerPoint. Once these are set up and working, we create the different activity sources. And so this one I will drill into and we'll have a look at my diesel generator. So similarly in the PowerPoint there, I've highlighted that we have our generator source. It is stationary combustion, and with it is tagged the determinant, the activity type, as well as some other components. This activity type and components that are all related, so this fuel, diesel fuel, can and is also associated with inventory items. So that when you create an account, like AP invoice or create a voucher, when you add those items from particular suppliers that are set up, these records will automatically be generated. Other components that are not set up will not be generated. The records won't be generated in the activity ledger. So showing you that, going back to the composed page, we have the three main areas of data entry or collection areas. Today, we're only going to quickly review the activity ledger itself, so the manual entry. But as I mentioned, when creating standard vouchers, so an invoice that paying directly, that you have options to enter carbon data, those items, and again, the activity ledger is updated automatically. Similarly, when you have a PO, a purchase order issued, and then you create a voucher and an invoice, that process is uplifted with the same feature functionality. In that, when you add those invoices, this ledger table is updated. And so within this table here, we'll just look on our current date right now. And we see that as of today, we have a few records in here. Funny enough, with diesel fuel and with resource and unit of measure of 100 gallons. Some of them are in progress and others have already been approved. What we'll do is click on the add button and then go through the relatively easy process of entering these records here. And so we're going to do our supplier, which is 151634, and then our date we'll put as of today. Our activity source, as you saw, is there's only one, which is going to be our diesel generator. So once we select that, we have a few automatic components populated, but the ones that we really just need to enter in here are the resource quantity and then unit of measure. Once we do that, we can complete this entry that no more is required. But if we do have an invoice or we do know some of the information, we can start to fill it in to this table here. And so this ledger table is quite long. There's many data items on here, some of which you may have, like I said, from invoices. Others may come from equipment, or if you have integrated with EPM or another solution that provides you some of these emissions data, you can get those calculated and then put back into this table here. And so that is where the main, one of the touch points of that integration is. So I will click on OK, which will create my record, and then I will go back to the main screen here, and it automatically fills in my batch number. So I created an activity ledger, created a new batch number, and filled in the date, and this is the record that was just created here. So you can see all of the data that gets incorporated onto here with entering a relatively minimal amount of data. From here, what's happened is I created this entry and I am also the approver of this entry. And so if I go to my work center, and I'll be wrapping up shortly here. So if I click on my work list, which is a composed page that has a few cool things on it, one of which is the message center, and I've listed by queues here. I've received a message, two messages in my message center and in my email. One of which is this one, which says I've created an approval request. So I entered something in that needs to be approved, and it's just letting me know that. The second one, as the approver, I get this email that says, hey, somebody has entered a sustainability record, which can you please review and approve it? And it also comes with this link right here that if we click on that, will automatically bring us to the sustainability approval program. So when we click on that, we can see it's fairly simple, sustainability activity approval. You can either accept or reject and put some comments if you're so inclined. And if you want to check the validity and some of the details, we can click on this, which brings us to the ledger itself. For now, we're going to keep it on accept, and then we'll click OK. And when we do that and go back to our ledger table, and then press find, we'll see that our record was updated to approved. Okay, so with that, that concludes the demo. I'm going to go back to our presentation. If I can. Perfect. Okay, so with that ends the demo. And as a quick overview here, I kind of touched on this in terms of implementing this module. It's really simple. Our approach is to look at enabling the functionality, configure the settings, understand what data requirements you need, and then analyze and act on those. Terms of next steps, we're really looking at what carbon emissions are important to you, determine what systems are affected by these and which are important, and then, like we mentioned, enabling the module in E1. With that, I'll maybe open it up to questions and hand it back to Marcella.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. So one question is, can I integrate my existing consolidated spreadsheets into this framework?
Yeah, so certainly you can do that utilizing the ledger and orchestrations. First and foremost, you can update and input records into that ledger, which is acting in a similar way as your consolidated worksheet.
Perfect, thank you. And another one is, will scope 1, 2, or 3 emissions output be calculated?
So at this time, only scope one is part of the feature functionality. But the scope, as I mentioned, scope two and three are on Oracle's roadmap, and those features will be coming out at some point in time.
Awesome, thank you. And last one, what other modules will the sustainability framework be integrated into?
Great question as well. On the roadmap for the future, they are looking to integrate into the inventory set of modules as well as assets and manufacturing, all in a similar vein of moving inventory and around using work orders to generate and create sustainability records.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Nick. And thank you everybody for joining us today. If you missed any part of the webinar, don't worry. I'll be sending out an email to all attendees with a recording of the session, along with a post-webinar survey. And as a thank you for completing the survey, you'll receive a Starbucks gift card as a token of our appreciation. In the meantime, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, where we regularly share helpful tips, insights, and blog posts, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.